Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and I'm going live on YouTube. Oh, let me make sure it's the right camera. I mean, the right. I didn't check my microphone. Hopefully, it sounds good. Anyway, I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I have been really inundated with other things. I wanted to demonstrate the technique of horary astrology. There are many branches of astrology. Most people are familiar with natal chart astrology, which I practice, where you come to get a reading about your natal chart. Um, this this steam yard has me backwards. Okay, this is not what I'm here to do. Messing around with my hair. Oh Lord, help me. Okay. I'm not going to touch my hair again. Um, Natal chart astrology, where we talk about your natal chart, a picture of all the planets at the moment of your birth. And your natal chart is your chart for your whole life. Everything in your life is rooted in your natal chart. Every person you meet is rooted in your natal chart. Yeah. Anyway, I also specialize in mundane astrology, the astrology of world events. I love seeing how the aspects and that the planets, the conversations the planets are having shows up here on Earth. And horary astrology has a divinatory feel to it. So it is when someone asks an astrologer a question, that would be the querent, asks the astrologer a question, and the astrologer casts a natal chart in their location, the location of the astrologer, as soon as they understand the question. This technique strikes awe. It's awe-inspiring about how much can be uncovered by using this technique. It can help people get guidance you don't get in any other way. You ask questions about yourself, not other people. It needs to be an important question, something burning, something soul searching, soul searing. It yeah, and yeah, those are some of the main things. It's really good for asking questions about relationships, about business things like property questions, business questions, health questions, things like that. Never ask a question you do not want an answer to, because the chart will show some things that you may not like. It shows what happened most recently and what's likely going to happen next. And yeah, so let me just do a little demonstration about now. I'm a Taurus, okay? I'm a Taurus. I've got Saturn on my sun. And yeah, I've got a lot of earth planets. My south node is in Virgo. My main concerns in life are health and wealth. So, like worrying about those, concerns about those things. So, we've been living with this COVID thing for 2.5 years, and I will throw a horary chart for COVID in a minute. And you can see that with just to like give you an insight into me. Share screen. Okay. So I'm going to share this screen. Okay. So you can see, hopefully you can see that these are all the times I pulled charts about, do I have COVID? Okay. And every single one of them was a no, except this one. Okay. So I went to the ESAR conference. Can I make this uh bigger? Oh, but if I do unhide chat, can I see the chat? Show chat. Okay, I hope I can see the chat. Oh, there's no one here right now. This is impromptu. Okay. So anyway, I went to the ESAR conference, and it's a astrology conference. It was absolutely amazing. I'm double vaxxed and double boosted, but the day after I got home, was feeling poorly. So when you look, so I was feeling poorly. I woke up and I cast, and I was like, did I get COVID at ESAR? And I cast this chart. So when you look at a Horary chart, the ascendant describes the person who is asking the question. So it's a Virgo ascendant, and Virgo rules health. My South node's in Virgo. I'm a Virgo. I have Virgo traits and stuff. And when we think about Virgo, we think about health stuff. So Mercury rules the sign of Virgo. So Mercury is my significator. You can see Mercury's direct. Mercury's in an air sign of Libra. It's in my first house of vitality. I'm asking a question about vitality. So the chart will show you that it's answering the question. And there's ways to check for radicality. It will also be rooted in your natal chart. Yeah. So, and then there's all these things like people know, I think most people who know astrology know about the essential dignity where a planet is at home or is at home or is what's the word? Is in detriment is is sorry, I'm thinking about two things. Home detriment in an exaltation fall. Yeah. And so in Libra, Mercury has no essential dignity, but it and it has no there are other things called term, face, and triplicity that are other dignities that shows that yeah, that a person has some like either strength or the detriment or the fall is like not it's like they have like there's issues and problems. I sorry, I got thinking about something in the middle of that. But I have no essential dignity, so that means I'm peregrine, symbolized by the P here. So peregrine planet is someone's in foreign terrain. They're lost and they're wandering. So that totally described me feeling, oops, do I have COVID and all of this kind of stuff. And then the sixth house rules things that go wrong with our health. And so I can see Saturn, which is a malefic in the sixth house. It's right on the cusp of the sixth house. Within 5 degrees, a planet is exerting its influence on the next house. So Saturn in an air sign Aquarius, I'm asking about an air-based disease. Makes total sense that would be that would be what I'm talking about. So you can see my next my next contact is with Mars. And when a planet is in within 3 degrees of another planet and aspect, a significator, it describes the person. So me, Mercury, a degree trine from Mars. Trines are like easy flow in an air sign, suggests, I'm a person, peregrine, lost and wandering, who's about to, get even sicker. Mars and Saturn are the malefics. They take away. They are not good. And Mars here is also peregrine. So a peregrine planet has the ability to do harm. So it's like, ooh, that doesn't look good. And then the moon, which is always a co-significator of like the querent, the question, things like that. The moon is in the air sign of Libra at 15 degrees. So there's a lot of rules with horary. 15 degrees Libra to 3 or 15 degrees of Scorpio. It's called the via combusta. It's the path of fire. When you see a moon, especially, but also I sometimes look at other things like the ascendant or the midheaven in the via combusta. It's this really nasty, like swath of stars in the sky, fixed stars. It means that there's the person's not going to like the answer, or it's going to bring an emotional response. So the moon is in the via combusta within in a 5 in air in a 5-degree trine with Saturn. So it looks like, you know, this again shows that their 5-degree trine, I'm saying, because 5-degree orb, 15 and 20. So there's 5 degrees moon to Saturn. So I was sick for 5 days where I felt like I had to sleep all the time and all of that. So like the orbs between the planets give indications of things. What's interesting is I kept taking these tests and they kept saying no. So I think this Mars trine within a degree of me is indicating, I'm taking these tests and they keep saying no, but I feel bad. So I went and got a PCR test on Thursday. So this was 2 days later. So you can see the seventh house in health questions is the doctor. And so I went essentially to the doctor in 2 days. You see Mercury opposite Jupiter, the doctor, and got my PCR test. And that day I got, yeah. And then that day I finally tested positive from a home test. Yeah. On the day that the sun conjunct my south node, the south node is a drain. When planets touch your south node, it can be like doing things that you regret, or it can also be like a health thing coming up. So yeah, I had COVID, and this chart is so clear. The moon in the path of fire, just, connecting me with bad health. Mercury in my house of vitality, peregrine, representing me in a trine with Mars. When Mars and Saturn are involved, yeah, those are somewhat worrisome. Okay, so that's having, oh, hello. You can ask me a question. I'm doing a demonstrations of horary. Let me exit full screen to see if anybody said anything. So if you have any comments, please feel free to leave a comment. So this chart is really cool. This chart is about when will I get my sense of smell back? So I had COVID. So, I had COVID back in, uh, the last day of August, but I didn't notice that my sense of smell was diminished for like 2 weeks. And then on this day at the full moon, where this full moon was at 16 degrees of Aries, my natal moon is at 17 degrees of Aries. The moon has like also is like your physical body, it's the environment. And on this day, I realized I couldn't smell anything, anything at all. Was running around the house trying to smell perfume and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So I cast the chart saying, when am I going to get my sense of smell back? And so and this was until October when I realized I lost my sense of smell totally, over a month after I'd had COVID. So I'm a Gemini rising in this chart. Yeah. So Mercury is still my significator. But here, Mercury is at 29 degrees. This chart is so cool, at 29 degrees of Virgo in the fifth house. And so whenever you see a planet at 29 degrees, something is about to change. Now, 29 degrees of Virgo kind of scared me because Mercury loves Virgo. And so it's where it's got dignity and exaltation. So it's really, really strong there. So to me, I was like, does this mean things are about to get worse? Because sometimes when a planet is going into sign in Libra, it doesn't have as much dignity, that it can mean that things are going from good to bad. But yeah, you'll hear more about that in a minute. Now, so here, Mercury, Libra, Venus rules my sixth house cusp. Sixth house, recall things that go wrong with your health. Libra is at home in I mean, Venus rules sixth house. Venus is at home in Libra and it's combust. So within 3 degrees of the sun is combust, but a planet in dignity is not as bad when it's in combust. When a planet is a combust, it's like a significator of it's bad. It's a significator of it has like it can be dying, things that are dying. It can be like signify being invisible or unseen. There are a lot of things being combust can signify. Yeah. And so then, as I said before, my and any planets in the first house can also be a significator. So Mercury signifies me, but also the Mars here in the first house. Mars in Gemini, and Mars rules smell, sense of smell. That's just something you just need to know. Yeah. And so, ooh, Mars, I can't smell. My co-signifier, Moon, is what's called besieged between two malefics. You can see the Moon is moving away from Saturn by sextile to Mars by sextile. This and 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 so I'm like, oh my God, I'm besieged. Oh my God, Mercury is about to lose dignity. Is my sense of smell gone? I don't know, but I had hope. And the moon in Aries is me because I have an Aries moon, yeah. And you see that it's at 20 degrees. So it's really putting its emphasis on the 12th house. 12th house of 12th house is a house of bad fortune, like can symbolize worry. Like when I showed you all those other times I'd cast um, charts. Usually the moon would be in the eighth house, which to me is a signal for myself. This is all in my mind because the eighth house is also very like about worry or your deep fears and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, and death, but it's the moon. The moon rules our moods and things and our emotions and our things like that. Anyway, what the good thing was that sextiles are a form of perfection when they are received. So you can see the moon is in Aries and Mars is in Gemini. Mars likes Aries, it's its home sign. So this is what's called a received sextile. So Mars is receiving the moon in 2 degrees. So then I started thinking, okay, the orb is 2. So maybe I'm going to get my sense of smell back in 2 weeks or two months. Yeah. And then you see 13 to 6. You can see that's about it's not quite 3, it's 2 something. So there was this repeating theme of 2. And what happened was I went and got a massage. This was on Sunday. On Tuesday, so 2 days later, I got this body work done and my sense of smell came rushing back. So that showed me it was, and I didn't even think about 2 days. I don't know why not, because when you see significators in cardinal signs, Aries and Libra are both cardinal signs. Venus and Libra signifying things that go wrong with my health. Moon in moon in Aries, another cardinal sign. Venus about to go combust, this like dying and being reborn kind of energy. Yeah, it came rushing back. Now, the thing about this, it also confirmed how I got COVID because you can look at the whole path that the moon has taken in orb. The moon's orb is 12 degrees. So if you go back 12 degrees, you'll see that I was the moon in the 10th house, opposite Venus in the 5th house. At Esar, there was this amazing dance party. I had such a good time hooting and hollering, having fun, dancing with all these people. There was maybe one person in there with a mask. And yeah, so that's confirmed for me that I got COVID at the dance party from someone there. And then the moon next. I use Chiron. I found that Chiron actually shows things in charts. Chiron talks to me. I have Chiron, yeah, it's prominent in my chart in my 10th house. Anyway, then dancing, having fun, Chiron in Aries. am infected with this, this virus. And then a few days later, the sun, you know, illuminates that I'm feeling ill. And then Saturn, I realize I can't smell, and then I get my smell back. So you can see the sequence of events and the timing of the sequence in the story. Oh, I felt sick, and then it took a couple of days for the test to tell me that I was sick. So all the timing was really cool with this chart. So that's another example of horary. And then this is a client example. Oh, this is a client example. Oh, let me see if anyone asked a question. Let me exit. No questions? Okay. Let's see. Let me go back to full screen. Ugh. Okay. So this is another question. So as I said, horror is great for asking any kind of question about relationships, business, health, these sort of things. Never ask a question if you don't want to know. It's also great for lost items. It can help you find things. It's really incredibly cool. But this is a question where I had done a reading, a new beginnings personal reading for a client. And they were talking about selling their house, but they were going to wait. This was earlier this year. They were going to wait till September. And she told me the date where they were thinking of putting their house on the market. And I was like, well, just so you know, Mercury's retrograde at that time, and that can symbolize, reversals or problems with contracts. And I'm telling them all these things about what Mercury retrograde means. And so they got very concerned and decided to put the house on the market sooner. And she asked me, okay, it's on the we're going to take on the market June 16th, or it was on the, that's when they were going to take offers or whatever, or something. And is this a good time for house sale? And I was also telling her about the Pluto return, about how, for the United States, it's in our second house of money and resources, and how we are likely going to be seeing, you know, real, problems, issues, a transformation, a complete, burning down to the studs kind of restructuring of things around financial things over the next couple of years. And yeah, and this was right before the second Pluto return, I think. Yeah, when we had the reading, and then they decided to just like put their house on the market when I told them the dates of the Pluto return and everything. Um, okay. So the ascendant is Leo. And so this represents the client. Yeah. So the client, ascendant Leo, sun in Gemini, totally, totally describes her. She's a very vibrant, vivacious, chatty person. Totally describes her. And yeah, you also see the moon in Leo, their co-signifier. The moon in Leo also signifies the question. So in property, we see that the and I use this for both of them, the couple who are selling the house, the actual property is the fourth house cusp. The person you want to sell to is always the descendant, the signified by the descendant and that ruler. And then the prophet is signified by the 10th house cusp and the 10th house ruler. So she's the sun. The couple are the sun, and the potential buyer is Saturn. And the thing that's really interesting about this chart, Saturn is stationing to go retrograde. So I didn't mention it, but the speeds of the planets is very important in horary. You need to know, like, because like two things can look like they're coming together, but if one goes retrograde and moves apart, that can be a symbol like it looks like you're going to have a deal, but then it's going to fall through, or there's going to be back and forth or something like that. It's called reformation when they're coming together, but they go apart. There are all these different things like that. There are different ways for it's called perfection, showing that something is going to happen. So I said, it looks like it's a good time to be selling because Saturn's stationing and then it's going to go retrograde. So it's like the buyer's here and they're standing still, but later on they're going to be moving backwards. So it's like the buyer's standing still waiting. And Gemini, the sun in Gemini is in a trine with Saturn. So trines like smooth, easy flow of energy. Yeah, I think you're going to sell your house easily. It's this gorgeous house. Yeah. And you can see 25 and is that 11? No, 25 and 14. It's 11 days. 11 is the orb. The sun's orb is 15. And you can see that I did this at June 4th, and we're asking about June 16th, which is 12 days. They got eighth offers. The house sold for $1 million over. Venus rules the midheaven, the prophet. Venus in Taurus, a sign of money. Venus in Taurus, indignity at home. Venus not only was indignity, the ruler, also had triplicity. So Venus is really strong, showing that there would be a good profit. So interesting that Venus is at 8 and Mars here is at 8. There are eight offers. They got 8 offers. The one they took was $1 million over. Mars is the house. Yeah. And so you can see the sun translates the light from Mars, the house, to the buyer. So Mars and the sun are in sextile to the buyer trine. So it's like easy peasy, smooth flow of energy. Yeah. And yeah, the buyers, it's interesting. The buyer's resources are symbolized by the eighth house cusp, um, Pisces. So you use Jupiter. You don't use Uranus, Pluto, or Neptune for the rulers of the signs in horary and ancient astrology. They move too slow. It's all about the speed and movement of planets and things. They're important and they can tell you something, but yeah. Yeah, and the buyer's finances are this Jupiter conjunct Mars, because you see they're within 2 degrees. Within 3 degrees, it's called partile. It's really when you see something within 3 degrees, it's important. So the buyer's money, Mars conjunct Jupiter, they got big money and they paid cash, $1 million over. So that's another example of a horary chart telling the story of how easy it's sold. Now, sometimes the story's not so easy. Sometimes like, oh, this doesn't look good. I have to tell people, that sort of thing. That's why you never ask anything that you don't want to know the answer to. Yeah. Also, the moon here the moon here signified, part of the reason they were moving is there was some worry involved because they wanted to um move somewhere safer. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so oop, exit full screen. Let's see if there are if you have any questions, go ahead and ask because I'm going to wrap it up. But this is one of the techniques that I do. A lot of people don't know what Horary is, so I wanted to give a little demonstration of it. You can book a reading at my website, astrologybyceleste.com. If you have a burning question and want to and want to get some insight, and you can't get this insight any other place, and I cross-reference your natal chart because every question is rooted in your natal chart. As I talked a little bit about how it was rooted in mine during this talk. It was also that last example was rooted in the client's chart. So yeah, if you have one, check astrologybyceleste.com. Come get a reading. I also do birth charts, mentoring, coaching, lots of stuff. Check me out on Instagram too. I do a lot on Instagram. And I have a podcast, Celestial Insights. Okay, thank you for joining. Bye.